Yeah. So even after we have staff comments, other business. Okay, we're on YouTube, and where is our? We are recording. Right up here it says recording. Okay. Thanks, Bill. You bet. Textbook needs to be added to my job description.
Hey, guys, Anne's having a hard time signing in. So she clicked on the link a few times, and then she also typed in the address manually, and it's not letting her in. So she's going to keep trying. But do you have any suggestions?
Or you
Does she have the password? Is she plugged in the password?
Have you tried the password, Anne? She's tried the password, yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find her another link.
Okay, Bill's looking at it too to see if he can help you out. Call me again if you can't. So, okay, bye.
It's your internet.
It might be. I don't know. She tried the link that Lori sent her a few times, and then typing it in manually, and it didn't work.
Okay, I got 6 o'clock.
But she's trying, just so you know.
Give it just about 30 seconds more. See if she can get on, and we'll start.
Gary, you can only join us if you have good news.
There's somebody getting on.
Did you
All
guys
right.
see?
Let me work
So
on
see you
this.
later.
So, just so, okay.
No, just kidding.
I just so you're aware, I joined on my phone so I can hear a little better than my computer speakers are good, but that way if bandwidth becomes an issue, I'll turn off my video, but I can still hear what's going on.
You're fine. You're good.
Yeah, I was wondering how we were hearing you when you were muted. So
Yeah, I found that this works a little better with these video conferences when Wi-Fi gets a little bit overwhelmed.
Is there a limit to how many people can join? Is that the problem with her joining?
No,
No.
somebody has dialed in 878134.
That's Gary's audio.
That's my phone. Yeah, that's my phone.
Bill?
Yeah.
Do you have Anne's number, or can you text her the ID or tell me real quick?
I just shot her an email again.
Okay, I'll tell her. Or
She's not trying to use the old one, is she?
yeah, it worked really well off of Laurie's first email, the link.
are you going to text her? I'm
doing it.
texting. Okay.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
I just want to know why Kevin isn't dealing with all the technical issues.
For the mayor's got 40 years experience.
That's why he's not. That's why I hear where I don't have to worry about it. That's the reason, Dave.
I figured that was.
Oh,
Just made
hey,
it easy.
happy anniversary, Dave.
All right, yeah, I came to council meeting just for my anniversary. My wife might come in here in a minute. We'll see.
You're an old romantic, Dave.
I think I did that one year, or we had council on Valentine's Day or something. I don't remember.
We did go out and pick up some dinner before this, so that's good.
Right on. What did you get?
Put it off till Friday, and you can go eat in the restaurants. They say
Really?
they're opening everything back up on Friday.
If you
what-
sit far apart.
Yeah, I went to a Roy D.
There's Ann from
Ooh,
recording.
yum. Thai food. Right on.
All right.
Hey, there's Ann.
I'm in, baby.
Yay.
All right. Looks like everybody's in, so I'll call to order the regular city council meeting of Pleasant View City this April 28th, 2020 at 6:03. We're doing this through Zoom with putting it out on YouTube for the public. And Laurie is monitoring for comments. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think.
Bill is, okay, Bill is. Great. All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the opening prayer reading and expression of thought by Kevin Bailey. Mr. Bailey.
All rise.
Flag's in my back.
Yep, see the flag? There you go. Repeat after me. I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
America,
and to
to the republic
for which it
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all.
Well,
Our Father in heaven, this beautiful spring afternoon, we meet as a city council and give you thanks for our many blessings, for the opportunity we have to live in this beautiful community and be part of Pleasant View City. We're grateful for the residents that live here, for our friends and family who are here, and pray that that would continue to protect and guide us. We're grateful that we're able to meet together in the capacity of city council tonight, and pray that that would help us to be wise stewards and make good decisions based on what we know. We're grateful for all we have and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Hopefully, there's some citizens joining us through the YouTube channel. I think this is a great opportunity to be more engaged with your local government, see what we do, and it might scare you a little bit, but we're new at this too. This is only our second city council meeting on Zoom, so be patient with us. We'll try to get all the bugs worked out, and hopefully going forward that more and more of our great residents will join us on this. It's a wonderful ability we now have that we're faced with. So, all right, next item on the agenda is the declaration of conflicts of interest. Is there anybody that would like to declare conflict? Seeing none. Questions, comments to the mayor and council from the public? Not sure. Does anybody texted anything in? Okay. All right, we'll just move to the consent agenda, which is minutes of April 14th, 2020. That was so graciously delivered to you in a packet by Laurie. She's our own little DoorDash. And does everybody have a chance to review those? I have one correction. Just on council members, Kevin Bailey via Zoom, he was via Zoom and office. Or he was here. Okay. Anybody else?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from April 14th.
We're gonna say, Steve, you're muted. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a,
Yes, I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Ann and a second by Kevin and a third by Dave. So any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Okay, item 1 of business, discussion of possible action to grant an exemption to the home occupation conditions to allow a person other than a bona fide resident of the premises for a martial arts / fitness classes for men, women, and children at 3767 North, 500 West. Requester is Gerald Erickson and Laurie.
Yes, in your packet, there is a memo. We have, they're asking for an exception that their son can work out of their home. He does not live at the home. We've granted those exceptions before. Because it is a martial arts and fitness class where they'll be dropping off kids and whatnot, they still need to comply with the rest of the affidavit. And if it does become a problem, we can go through kind of a nuisance ordinance steps, to make them correct anything that's there. But they're here if you want to ask them any questions.
I just want to make sure they understand that you're limited to 8 students per class and 40 students per week.
Yes.
Benny. highlighted in the affidavit. I don't know if that was you or our staff that was highlighted it, so. Okay, so if I understand this right, you're asking for an exception because normally our home occupation allows only those living in the home. We do a number of these, not a ton, but we do with one employee, usually a relative. That's seems to be the major exemptions that we deal with. Questions from any of the council members?
I
I have
couldn't
a
read it.
question for Chris or Gerald. Is it Gerald? Yep.
Yes.
Have you guys talked to your neighbors about the parking, or is that a concern?
Well, yes, we have talked to the neighbors and no, that's not a concern. I've talked to the neighbors on both sides of us and also the ones behind us. Nobody has a concern. They're even considering the idea of having some of their children involved in the program.
Well, most of these kids, is this a kid type thing or adults? Will they be dropped off or will they be parked there?
It'd be a combination of all of them. Younger students would probably be dropped off. Older students and adults towards the later in the evening, which would be like 7:45-ish, would probably be coming on their own accord. Many of them would probably be carpooling.
I have a question that the comments in the back, they're hard for me to read, but you're talking about some signs that will be on the property.
Just up the street from us is a Sunshine Preschool. It has a sign about the size of what you'd have for a real estate sign. We were looking at something similar so that the people would know which house it was to come to and to go around the stairs on the side of the garage. They'll be entering through the back of the house into the basement. And so we just need a sign there to let them know that the martial arts is down the stairs and in the back.
Okay.
That's limited to 4 square feet, which I believe you.
It'll be about the same size as the one up there, about 2 feet by 2 feet.
Okay.
It'll be posted on the brick wall alongside of the garage. So it actually won't be in the yard.
I have a question. It says in the memo that we want to like time the classes so that there's a 30-minute gap between classes.
That's
Is
for the people. Yeah.
Necessary? Do we want to force that? Is that okay with the Ericksons or?
Well, I can tell you, and that in my experience up in Morgan County, there was a dance studio in someone's basement, and they have had a lot more students than these guys are planning to have. The Ericksons are planning to have, but it was a problem because at the change of class times, there were people that were parking and queuing on the street, even though they had a fairly long driveway to get people around, and the drop-offs were actually taking place on that. But they would find that people would come and drop off their students, and then they would either stay on the street or, just in the neighborhood, and it was just it was a mess. And so having these guys with their schedule a little bit more flexible and having some gap time between classes really would help out with that. So that people aren't lingering and crossing over each other, trying to pick up and drop off at the same time.
I agree that the preschool that's located on Pleasant View Drive in the, the old bank building, when the preschool is getting out, it's a nightmare to go up and down that street. And that's even a main thoroughfare. So.
Yeah, there's a few of them that would have been a nice addition to their process.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I just think if they're limiting it to 8 students, I mean, maybe that doesn't even bug them, but I think 30 minutes is plenty. Maybe we could even just go 15, just so it's not like what Bill's saying, but just a thought. We might be able to, vary on that just a hair for them, if that helps them.
That would be helpful.
That would be very helpful if that was possible.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Most of our students are going to be junior high and older anyway. They're not going to be really young children like we presently have at the current location. We start as young as 3.5 there, but we're not anticipating that those will continue under this kind of a situation.
Could you make it like if they keep it under a certain amount, then reduce the time, but if the attendance in the class is more, they would have to go back to the half hour? You know, if you just have the 8 students or under a certain amount of students,
That's
then I
all
can
they
understand.
have is 8. They're
Okay,
limited,
so, okay,
so.
then that might be a consideration.
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead. Steve.
You know, I mean, and this is fine, and I know we have preschools and different things like that around, and you know, those are, we don't want to limit that, but I see that this, you know, 8 students per class, how are we going to monitor that? And I mean, it's fine to have it, but I can see this getting, you know, very popular or something, and all of a sudden we're just inundated with all kinds of people. I don't know exactly where the house is located. I'm just trying to think.
We're
500.
3 blocks up the street on 5th West.
Okay.
We're right
So
across
that
from
is-
the baseball thing over at
Diamond there. I'm just off of 500 West. I mean, I'm hoping that the traffic and the congestion won't be a problem. And if you were living in my neighborhood, it would be a problem. You know, to have that many cars come, especially if you have classes how long are the classes going to be?
They'd be about 45 minutes for older students, and younger students would be 30.
And so you can have this all day long?
I believe we're just limited to just the evening, so it'd be from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I believe is the time limit.
Okay.
Let me point
Well, I
out.
just wanted to be able to, just wanted to get away from us a little. You know, again, we don't want to limit. I don't think that's our thing here, to limit somebody's business, but we just don't want it to be a nuisance. So that's my only concern.
We agree.
Gerald, you have a comment? Gerald, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. We just wanted to kind of point out where he presently is he has a martial arts studio with a regular commercial facility down at 5 Points. Given the COVID situation, we don't have a lot of students there. And what we're trying to do is we're getting ready for a master's degree test coming up in July. And so it'll primarily be the older students that are ready to go for a new belt level that will be attending. The younger students, he's already doing classes with them on video. So we'll have video classes downstairs where there won't be anybody other than himself that's attending. But as far as the actual number of students here, it'll be pretty much limited to the older ones that are getting ready for their belt test.
So is this just a temporary thing, or is this going to keep the 5 Point
We'd like to have
location?
it approved for something we can go, because we don't know how long this COVID situation will last.
Right.
But if we get an opportunity to go back to the regular commercial studio, he's got a 1,500 square foot studio where he is right now. We'd certainly like to do that with all the mats and everything else. We've already discussed it with his owners, and they're in a similar situation. They would like to have him continue on where he is, but we're all kind of playing this game, you know, as we see it, as this COVID thing rolls out.
Hey, Steve, we just wondering if it might be, we've done this in the past where we've approved this subject to read instead of just being okay going forward forever. We say in a year, we want to look at this exemption, make sure it's working for us as a city.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. And Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve this exemption to the home occupation with the conditions that we've talked about for the Ericksons with their martial arts fitness for the different home occupation classes. I don't think we need to put a year on it. I mean, I just as long as it doesn't get away from us, I think that's the key. And if you want to put a year, Mayor, can we look at it? I just don't want it to get away. Again, if we were having all those cars in my neighborhood, I would be upset a little bit on a single. I'm just thinking of the neighbors, but you've already mentioned that the neighbors are okay and they want to share. So anyway, I'll make that motion that we approve that exemption.
I'll second that, but I think we ought to add the year back into it.
Okay, I'll make that change then. That's
And
fine. For a year.
I'd like to say that we bump it down to 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes overlap. That's a lot of downtime for a teacher. And I think that's plenty of time to move the traffic around.
Yeah, and we're not going to be monitoring that. Just it's going to have to be good faith. It's just going to have to be a good situation for the neighborhood, I think.
But as far as writing it up, I think we should write it to the 15 minutes.
15
Everyone's
minutes
okay
is
with that.
Okay, you
I'll make
okay
that,
with
I'll make that change
substitute?
in the motion.
Okay. Get all that, Laurie?
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a motion by Gibson, second by Marriott. Further discussion?
Yeah, just one question I had was what's the difference of meeting in your house versus the commercial property during COVID? Is there a difference, or, I mean, it's
The biggest
loud-
difference is just the volume. We've actually lost about 60% of the student base right now. My dad actually was not quite accurate on the facility. We actually currently have a 5,000 square foot facility. We currently have about 75 students. Anticipating about 35 of those quitting within the next month, just because families are being hit hard. So we're kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding phase. So like my dad mentioned, it's really intended to be more of a short-term thing when we kind of rebuild. It might be a couple months just to kind of rebuild and kind of back there. I really like to be in a commercial facility though, just because of square footage and stuff like that we need to be for the activity.
Okay.
Further
Good luck.
discussion?
So, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Great.
All right,
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
folks. We appreciate your help.
good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2 is discussion on the Skyline Drive project. What we've asked Gary to join us. He's more or less going to listen. We're going to get a full briefing when he wasn't quite ready, and I didn't want to push it too quick, so I said we would have a discussion with myself and Bill and answer or ask questions and see where we're at, and then he could take some notes. He volunteered to get on and listen and take notes, and so help him with a presentation in a couple of weeks. So that's kind of what we're at. Hopefully everybody got the information that was pushed out by Laurie and Bill. Appreciate them taking care of that. It's always fun to pull that all together because it is quite a history. Hopefully you got a chance to review it, and we can talk specific questions or concerns and kind of, I don't know if you got questions about the history or just anybody want to jump in, go ahead and jump in.
So I don't really have questions about the history of the problem. My questions, I guess, going forward are what's the plan, and I don't know what the whole plan consists of, and a timeline, and are we on track financially? What's our portion and what's the state's portion of it, or the county? I don't know who's all involved in it, so that's where my questions come from.
Okay, fair enough. Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about at least the financial part of it?
Yeah, so we have some funding available through WACOG that was procured. It was roughly $3 million. That was set aside for corridor preservation. We're currently in the process of using that money to acquire properties along the route. Some of the properties we won't have to get the full width of the road. And that's in particular, that would be the phase 2 of the project. That would be from 1100 West over to 500 West. And the city owns a substantial portion of the right of way through there. So we won't need to do a whole lot of actual property acquisition through there, but we will need potentially some easements to get on the properties and to change and or rehabilitate some of the property that we will need as we build the road. So that's a little bit further down the road, if you'll forgive the pun. And so far we can tell you that we have one piece of the puzzle that has pretty much come to fruition. I just dropped off a check at the title company earlier this afternoon for the very first piece at the bottom of the hill. And we don't want to talk too much with regard to specifics on property owners or different things like that, because negotiations are ongoing and we don't want to skew any of that or cause any trouble for anybody, especially the city. But just know that we are working through those phases and negotiating in good faith with the 10 different property owners that are on phase 1 of the project between Highway 89 and 1100 West.
You say 10 property owners, Bill?
It's roughly 10, isn't it? Is that right, Gary? Is it 10?
Yeah, there's 10 different parcels. 3 of the parcels are owned by the same people, so, but yeah, 10 parcels.
So is phase one, the property acquisition is only Pleasant View City? Is this only a Pleasant View City project or?
Yes.
Okay. There's
Now,
no
I should say that this will be a city-owned facility, and therefore it is just a Pleasant View driven thing, but we are, and that's part of the reason why it's taken so long, but we are looking to gain funding through federal sources, through UDOT, through Wasatch Front Regional Council. We are on their long-range plan. So funding could be available through there. And that's one of the reasons why it's taken so long, because if you get federal funding, you have to do the full environmental assessment of the project and of the property. And so that takes a long time, obviously. The fact that we're in this phase right now bodes well, though, because that means that the environmental impact is minimal and we can proceed forward, and there won't be any hindrance for gaining those funds in the future. And so yeah, the funding for the construction piece is a little bit up in the air because there are several unknowns. In particular, how much the value of the material to be extracted is to a developer, to a constructor, to someone who you know, can come in and take the material off the hill and then leave us with a rough graded road. That's obviously something that has a value to it, and what that is exactly, we're not sure. In the next couple of weeks, Gary and I and the mayor and some of the rest of the team are going to get together and put out a bid for that. And depending on where they come back, we'll be able to put better numbers to that part of the project.
So,
When do you think we'll be ready to push that bid out?
Gary, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, so we actually sent it off to Dana for review. I think we could have the package out within a month, available for bidding purposes, with the contingency that they can't get started until the right-of-way has been acquired on the parcel. But once again, the area, the one on the furthest end has been, like Bill had mentioned, has been closed. And I'm anticipating a couple more this week, talking to our acquisition agent. So I think it's a good time to start looking to put it out. The other part of the current environment that's going on is a few recent construction bids have come in with a pretty good number. And I don't know if contractors are not as busy as they used to be, or just concerned about keeping their employees busy, or finding an opportunity and taking advantage of it maybe. But anyway, the bids that we're receiving recently have been pretty good.
I think then we need to push that out sooner than later to try to take advantage of that, because you're probably right.
I have a question too. So after phase one is complete, you were saying that we would have kind of a temporary road. Is it after phase one we'd be able to accommodate gravel trucks, or is it not phase one? Yes.
Yeah, we're hopeful that, and that's the target with phase one, is to get to a place where trucks would be able to go off the hill down to Highway 89 rather than having to come down 500.
We will after phase one, but it's not a finished road. It's just still the dirt road.
It would be a dirt road, and it would be rough graded in.
Okay.
So we would have at the end of phase one, we would have the right of way in place and a rough graded road in place that could be used by trucks getting off the hill. There is a little bit of a hiccup there at the canal. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to work out, because that adds an additional expense to the project, getting over the canal itself. And there's some grading and other things that have to go in through there that are more of a construction than an excavation piece. And so we're still kind of figuring that out. And that's an engineering challenge that Dana and Gary are putting their heads on. And so that's kind of the biggest remaining hurdle in all of this, is that piece there.
I think the real takeaway for for all the citizens. And what I've been responding to them is we are pushing this forward. We are, I believe, Jason has gotten all the packages to all the property owners. They're all in different levels of dealing with that. As of our last meeting a couple of weeks ago, he did all of them, but I think one or two. So, and he said that should be done in the next week. So they should all be out there now. They have a certain amount of time to respond. And like I said, I think Gary's got, I want to get it going, the grading as soon as possible. So I'd like to get that grading package out, especially if bidding conditions are right now for us. It's even a greater incentive to get it out, but it is moving forward. People I've talked to and told them, hey, we're going to have the property sold up pretty soon, one way or the other, and then we can start grading. It just, they're very pleased, as well they should be, that something is actually happening. And as soon as we can get some grading going on up there, I think that they'll really be pleased, as we all should be.
I want to say, as far as the truck road off the hill goes, the phase 1 goes, the property owners have been very good to work with. We're not anticipating having to do any condemnation proceedings or any kind of difficulty that way. We're hopeful that all of the property owners, especially the developer type property owners up there, will understand the value that we're bringing to their property and to the project. So we haven't had a whole lot of pushback. In fact, the one piece that we do have in place right now, the first piece, was the one that we kind of had anticipated might be the one that would take the longest. And it's the first one done. So we're hopeful that that's a good indicator that things are going to go smoothly with this. With things the way they are, with the global situation, the emergency and things, it's a challenge to get people at the same table, literally and figuratively. So that's kind of been a little bit of a slow point in the last 6 or 8 weeks or so, but otherwise it's going as well as could be expected, and we're pleased with the progress.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Go ahead.
So with the WACOG funding, do we have enough funding to complete all of phase 1 or just some of phase 1? And then also, I'm interested to see like what our timeline is. Do we have certain deadlines or even just like goal dates set in the process of phase 1?
So the funding is in place, and we think it should be enough to get all of the property that we need. If that depends on how negotiations go with the property owners. So again, we don't want to get too much into that, but we're hopeful that we have enough in place. And if not, we can probably go back to WACOG and get some additional funding if necessary.
Will that cover the grading and everything too with phase 1, or just the property acquisition?
Just the property acquisition. That's all WACOG is funding is through and for. So they did give us $250,000 towards the bid package for the grading piece. And then we're just going to have to see how that comes in and what the value is and what the numbers look like there. There is some funding that we've already received through Wasatch Front that could be brought to bear for the construction piece and for the extraction piece. But again, we're going to have to look at that carefully and just make sure that all the ducks are in a row that way. Gary, did you have a thought there? You look like you had a thought.
Yeah, the contingency with the WFRC or the Wasatch Front, which turns into federal funds, is that we have to build the entire roadway, meaning a paved surface.
Oh,
so
I see.
That's the reason we've trying to use WACOG funding to do the grading package. And then once that's done, look towards a full construction. But with the federal funds, they want to see a completed road surface and completed project, meaning it could be phase 1. So from US 89 up to 1100, but they want to see an asphalt surface and everything done.
And I would just add for the council that it's a little bit, if we're talking like we don't know, it's because we don't know. That's why we got the $250,000 for the bid package to go out to bid to see what the cost will be compared to the value of the material I extracted to do the cuts, so.
So Mayor, if do we have any idea though of what that, we've always thought that, you know, the rock will be of value and that will pay to get that base line down, but Gary, have you put any numbers together? I mean, are we realistic? I know we're kind of just shooting in the dark here, but with the amount of rock to come off, and I know there's a lot that has to be built up on some sides and taken out on the other, is there going to be enough value in the rock to get what we want?
That's the great unknown. No, I mean, unless you're in the mining and you're doing that business and selling it, and they keep that information kind of tight to their chest because it's private development or it's development related, so they don't tend to tell you what that exact value is. If you run an excavation number for what it would be on a typical project, that's the number that's coming in, you know, $8 to $10 million that we have to excavate, but that doesn't account for the reuse or potential sale of that material. And that's where it's kind of development driven and how they want to use that material. So that's the point of that grading package, is to hopefully get that out there and see maybe the excavation is worth what they're going to sell it for and what that value comes out to be.
I think that's why it's so important that we get that package out like right away.
And Ann and Dave, as we've talked about this over the last few years, see, that could possibly take 2 or 3 years to have them grade that too. That's the problem, because they're not just going to take it out in one big chunk. They'll grade it and mine it and break it up and do all those things, and that's not going to be done in a month. You know, that could take a while. There's a lot to move.
Thanks, sir.
Sorry, with what Ann and Dave proposed by putting this on the agenda, though, you may not be able to say, you know, A, B, and C will be done by this certain amount of time, but I think that keeping it on the agenda quarterly and talking about it and saying, okay, this is what we would like to have happen, if we could, you know, feasibly by this point, and then talking about it again and keeping it present and going, I think that will help push. Yes, there's mitigating factors, but instead of waiting every 6 months to a year or whatever, I think that we need to keep it fresh.
I don't know that it will help push it along, but it will certainly allow the council to be more informed.
Yes.
Well, and I kind of would like to know what if we were shooting for the moon, like, all right, this thing went through really smooth. What do those deadlines look like? Like if it was a great day in Pleasant View, what does it look like?
So that's a fair question, and we're hedging a little bit on it because there are so many things outside of our control. We would like it if we could reach into everybody's hearts and minds and wave our magic property wand and have them give us all of the property.
So let's pretend they did.
Fair market price.
Let's pretend they did. What would it look like?
The pretending for that would have been actually when Gary said that we would have been done last December, but obviously that hasn't happened. And we were shooting for last December. There were various things that were outside of our control. The appraiser, for one, was backed up significantly. There were engineering questions that we were trying to work through with different property owners that affected the design of the project. And I'm not making excuses, please don't get me wrong, but just to explain, this process has taken longer than initially anticipated. So Gary's estimate in the time frame was aggressive, and that's great because we want people to be aggressive and try to get after those deadlines when they can. But life happens, things happen that are outside of our control, and we're hustling through just as quick as we can. Our property acquisition agent in particular, Jason Allen, has been fantastic to work with. He's been on top of these people, literally going to their doors and sitting down in their living rooms with them and talking to them about, you know, these are the needs and wants of the city. And he's been helpful to resolve those concerns before they become super big issues. And it's been great that way. It takes time. And so again, that's why we're hedging just a little bit on it, because we don't know how things go. If there's a property that goes to a condemnation proceedings, for example, it could take up to 3 or 4 months to get through the courts, if that's the route that we have to go on it. We will ultimately prevail. The property will be ours. The question just becomes one of timing. And again, if one of the property owners says, you can't have my property, then we will have to go the condemnation route, and that will be tough and extend the timeline out who knows how long. So.
Okay, but if it goes smooth, are we looking at 2 years, 5 years, 20 years? Like what, I just need some kind of a feeling.
For what end? For a fully finished road?
Phase
Or
one.
To get the trucks out of there.
Phase one.
Phase one with just dirt or phase one with a paved road?
Dirt.
Here, get the trucks out of there.
So
Yes.
let me give you another element that I was going to kind of cover in a couple weeks, and I can.
No, just say
cover-
what it will be. Dirt.
So you got to understand, part of what we're proposing to the contractors is allow them the opportunity to tell us the value of the time to excavate the material. Because we don't have all the construction funding we want, part of the uniqueness of what we've come up with for this advertising of this grading package is you tell us how long it will take to excavate this material. So if they wanted to do it a spoonful at a time and it took them 20 years, what's that value versus if we tell them, you know, you got to get done in 6 months, that's going to cost the city a whole lot more money. So those who
There's
are
got to be a happy
professional,
medium, though. There has to
That's
be a
what
happy
we're expecting
medium.
them to tell us. That's why it's so important to get the grading package out. That's what we're.
Yeah, I mean,
waiting-
I'll
that's
tell
what
you
we're
right
gonna
now,
wait for their response to find that out, so.
if we did this for a regular roadway project and put a schedule down, I would tell them 6 months and it would cost us $10 million.
Which we don't have.
Right.
So
That's the
how-
reason we're hoping if we allow them to kind of provide a schedule that they could sell the material as they excavate it, that might entice them to give us a much better price.
If I remember right, I believe we designed the package as 1, 2, 3 years. Did we go beyond 3?
Correct.
So
Correct.
we're in the first year of the grading package?
No, we haven't even.
It would start once we enter the contract.
We want them to tell us what their figures will be if they did it in 1 year, what their figures would be if they took 2 years.
When are we going to
what
find
the
out?
figure-
When we get the results from the bid package,
Which,
which will be done in about a month.
So
okay.
When we
so
get
I'm fine.
Dana is currently reviewing that advertisement package right now.
So in a
we
month?
want to make sure she had a chance to review it and then we could put it out to the contractors. We typically, so she's reviewing it. We generally give the contractors 2 to 3 weeks to bid. We hadn't set that timeline on whether we wanted to give them 2 or 3. I was going to talk to Bill about which one we'd like. So as soon as Dana's reviewed it, we can make any corrections that she sees in the plans. Then we could proceed towards advertising, and it would be a 2 to 3 week advertisement period.
So in about a month, you're going to see that advertisement be ready to go to put out.
Yeah, and then we wait for 2 or 3 weeks for people to put packages together.
Okay.
Probably, I'm leaning towards 3 weeks on that, Gary.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it, but I'm leaning towards 3 weeks just to allow people ample time to really look at it. It's a complex thing.
Yeah,
It
I was
is. It's
wondering,
very unique. It's very unique. So
yeah, is it difficult to get those bids without the acquisition of the property? I mean, can they go look at it? Can they,
I think so.
some of them. So once again, some of the properties we have one, and by the time we get this out, we anticipate we'll have a couple more. So no, I think they could get a feel for it. And most of the contractors that I think are interested in it are very familiar with the area.
Right. We're talking, when he says that, he's talking Butters or Towers and Staker Parsons and some other folks. And it's, yeah, they get it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. We've also, just so you're aware, it's out on, I'm going to say the project, Mountain View Court. No. Anyway, there's a large project with UDOT, and I've just lost the name, out for
West
contractors. West Davis Corridor, thank you. We specifically added that in their advertisement that's going on with that project right now to hopefully entice potentially a few more contractors. the material off of this project would provide them, I think, roughly a third to a half of what they need for that job. So that project is kind of simultaneously happening with this. And that was part of the timing of things as well. We needed to see that project get far enough along that the excavation of this material might entice them with the bids they're putting in on that project.
So one of the biggest things that was mentioned last time you came to talk to us was if all things being equal and we had what we needed, it would be money that is slowing everything down. If we had the money, this had been done a long time ago.
That's
Correct.
the case with every project we deal with.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
If we had north of $30 million, we could have the project
Doesn't
probably be
everyone?
under construction.
So that's exactly what I was gonna say, Sarah, is
Yeah.
this is, if you're getting the idea that this is a very well choreographed dance that we're doing in order to stretch what little money we have out as
Right.
far as we can to get it done as quick as we can. That's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah. We do
so-
what we can afford and do
Yeah.
it the best way we can and unfortunately that takes a lot of time.
And that's kind of the, we got X cash and Y time, and it seems like the shorter the X gets, the longer the Y gets.
Whoa.
Okay, time's up. I didn't move to the next item.
So it sounds, I have a question though. It sounds like to me, once we get through the property acquisition, that we can put some pretty solid timing to it, based on what money we have, right? I mean, granted, if we have to find more money, then, or we know how long that'll take, that kind of thing, right?
That's right.
So I guess we need to get through the property acquisition. It sounds like you're making lots of progress right now. Who knows how long that'll be, but then after that, then we can really set some timing to it.
Can we keep this active though, like Dave and Ann suggested, every couple months, just keep this active and, follow up just for our sakes of where are we now? What do we have to do?
Yeah. I think the next report will be hopefully in a month, we'll say, hey,
Yeah.
what has been acquired, or we can tell you where we're at on that. But I'm anticipating, Bill kind of alluded to the fact that, we're because it's kind of tied to possible state and federal funding, we have to go through and have everybody that are UDOT certified appraisers, UDOT certified land acquisition agents, all that kind of stuff. And there aren't like hundreds of them floating around waiting to do. And so to get the ones we've been using, this seems like a big thing to us. To them, it's pretty small. They got projects that are, like the West Davis corridor and other things that are so many hundreds of properties that they got to deal with instead of 10. So we've kind of been, Jason's done a really good job begging and getting them to finally do it. So he's been a good agent for us. All right, if nobody's opposed, if there's no more questions, I'd like to move on to the next item, and we'll keep trying to get this in the forefront. Gary will come back in a couple of weeks, or I don't know what's a good time. You want him in 2 weeks or a month?
Based on what we've talked about today, I'm not sure I'd have much in 2 weeks. I could give you some more figures and stuff like that, but I would say in a month would probably be, I'd have a little more, I think we'd kind of start to see interest in the package, kind of have a little more details on that grading package. So I would recommend a month.
Let's plan on that then. Is everybody okay with that? We'll try to keep you informed as these parcels come in. Like I said, me when the first one came through, we saw who it was. Me and Bill gave high fives. They're 6 feet apart, but it was
6 feet apart, high fives.
So
yeah,
it was like, yes.
And that is creating challenges with the acquisition. It has, as Bill said, the last couple of months was, you really have to do these face to face to help people understand what we're asking for them. So anyway.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Gary. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, item 3, discussion of possible action to approve the pool of qualified consultants for the acquisition of property and easements with Pleasant View City on an on-call basis. Dana.
Hello. So in order to, because the city has throughout the year several projects that we need property acquisition done on, and they're miscellaneous items. Some of them are easements, some of them are right of way, some of them are actual parcels. We felt that it was most efficient to create a pool of acquisition agents to be on an on-call basis. So we went out for advertisement several weeks ago. We received 4 proposals. We had an evaluation committee. We compiled all the scores, and you can see those on the award memo. We recommend award onto the pool of the top 3 consultants, which were Bonneville Acquisitions, B Squared Land Service, and Lamar Mabey. They're all well-known acquisition agents with good reputations and local experience, which is what we were looking for.
Dana, is this the total pool or just the top 4?
So those were the 4 proposals received, and then the sentence below that is what we recommended the top 3 to be onto the pool.
Okay.
If I could comment, the reason why number 4 was eliminated from consideration is that, well, just to give you an idea, the average fees were ranged from Bonneville, which was $1,400 a parcel, roughly, to
Oh. Well, let's just say Meridian's was quite high.
Bill, we lost you.
Bill's frozen.
So that's why we eliminated them from consideration.
There you are again, but we lost you for a minute.
You pretty much froze for that whole discussion.
Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. Anyway, the long and short of it was that they were way more expensive than everyone else. Way more expensive.
Out of proportion. Yeah. So.
I thought I was the only one that had poor internet.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the acquisition agents as recommended by Dana.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Bailey, second by Yuri. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4 is PEHP benefits selection. Laurie.
This is our health insurance for this coming year, starting in July. Nothing has changed from last year. There is an increase of 5.5%. We are going to get out our open enrollment tomorrow, so we need to get your blessing on this, so that can be part of it. But nothing is changing except for just the 5.5% increase in the premiums.
Is that pretty standard, the 5.5?
Yeah, it's not bad. We've had times when it's been like 23% and whatnot. The last few years have been really good. Doug Bronson, our broker, has done pretty good on getting us in different categories. So we've been pretty good the last 5 years. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
Have you been happy with the coverage with PEHP? And did we shop at all, like around, like, you know what I mean? Did we look at other insurance carriers this year, or will we next year?
We've had this for quite a long time, and everybody seems to be pleased with it. It is a good.
I think Doug puts together some different options, and they've changed. There's several different options available, right?
Yeah, for the employees, they have actually 4 that they can choose from. We have a Summit plan, an Advantage, and an HSA. So the different networks. But
quick question though, to what Ann said, as far as I know you've had this company for a long time, but what is the process, at least for our city, to say, okay, we've had this insurance company, but like with Weaver School District, they have to show that they've looked at other insurance companies just to as a comparison?
Yeah,
is that what you guys do too?
Yes, we have in the past. This year's just been kind of weird with that COVID and everything. We haven't gotten together. But it's not a bad increase at all. And Doug Bronson and Brooke from PHP sent this to us.
We
and
can
feel it's
have
okay.
Doug look at it next year. I think I asked him, last year, I think we looked at IHC Select.
And another one. they're all-
Because he represents several, well, quite a few different, and always tries to find the best for each agency he represents. But we can do a full-blown look next year.
Yeah,
If
usually
if
when
we're
we
not
get the,
in COVID-20 or something like that.
yeah.
is-
usually
who
we do
is
the full
Doug?
blown, we get people's.
Doug is our
health
insurance
conditions and
guy.
everything.
He works for different municipalities, or what's his
Broker
name?
or something.
I can hear you,
He's an insurance broker. I believe he works for
Heiner.
Oh,
Pioneer Insurance.
Miners.
okay. What's his last name? I'm just curious.
Bronson?
Doug
Doug
Bronson.
Bronson.
Okay.
So is that 5% increase shared between the employee and the city, or is city covered? How's that?
The city will pick up 95% of that, the employee picks up the 5% of the increase.
So it's an
That's
85.
Pretty good insurance.
That's real good.
That's way good.
It's a really good, quite frankly, it's a really good recruitment and retaining, especially in our law enforcement.
For sure.
Can I ask too, like who's eligible for the insurance coverage? Like are part-time employees eligible? Do they have to be full-time? What?
Full-time or,
30 hours and over.
yeah,
Does part-time get anything, any sort of,
they'll get different benefits if they work at least almost 20 hours, and then we have to give them those benefits, but it's most like sick and vacation.
And then at 20 hours, you have to pay into the retirement system for. So anybody between 20 and 29 hours would get retirement plus prorated sick and vacation. Then 30 hours, 40 hours would get retirement, health insurance, and prorated up to 40 hours.
Mhm.
That
One
makes-
other thing I want to throw out there, I know that with my employer, if my spouse has an insurance, but he's choosing mine, you have to disclose that and usually have to pay like an extra $100 or something. So I just want to throw that out there that some companies are doing that. If there's
We
another
actually,
insurance.
I believe we pay into their 401k
If they choose not to
if they
have it.
choose not to have it because their spouse has it. So we pay,
50% of what we would have.
yeah, 50% of what we would have paid. So
for their
they think it's-
premium? You pay
50%.
50% of what their premium would be into their 401k?
Yes.
So it's in lieu of being double coverage, double covered. It's, if people are thinking, they probably would take that. But,
Yeah, it saves quite a bit.
yeah, it saves us, benefits them. So hopefully we're explaining it to them so that they understand it. I think we have a couple, but not
Probably about 4 or 5.
4 or 5 out of them. That's good. Good. Okay. So do we need a motion to accept that?
If they would, so I can do
Okay,
that.
yeah. We do need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the PEHP benefit selection. I'd like to just put a clarifier in that next year we do look at some other options.
Okay.
I'll second that.
motion.
Dave beat me.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dave.
Motion by Arrington, second by Marriott. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi. Hey, just a quick question about that. How do we make sure it gets on the agenda, like the thing, the road thing for next month? Does Laurie
I
keep
know
an
it.
agenda?
Laurie notes it, and it'll be there.
I'll put it
She hasn't
on.
missed
sure it's
one
there.
yet, so.
We'll make sure.
I'm just wondering how you do that. Do you have a file that you look at for every week throughout the year? I mean, what's your method?
Yeah, I just have a folder that's labeled every city council meeting when there's a little note, but I can stick a note in it, and then when I do the agenda, I have my note.
All right.
Yep.
I
it'll
trust
be
you,
on
Laurie.
there.
Laurie's just like this voice from the sky, I just know this. She's not even on camera, so.
Yeah, I'm here.
She's-
I just know I would forget, and
All right.
I would have to have some way to keep track.
She doesn't forget anything.
All right, the motion carries. Now, next item is discussion and possible action to adopt an ethical behavior policy Laurie, this again blows my mind. It's like adopting a policy that says we're not gonna speed or I'm not gonna, I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
but whatever. It's
Yeah,
driving
I
me crazy.
attached all those documents, well, a lot of the documents that came from the state auditors. They say that this really doesn't matter, but talking to our auditors, it is going to be a part of their audit. And so that checklist, we are just going through just to see how many things we can get in place so that we can get a pretty good score that we are maybe in this low, very low risk fraud area. So this is one of them. We only get 5 points for it, but this is going to be in the employment packet tomorrow too for all the employees to sign it. And maybe it's just a good reminder that, you know, we got to be ethical and watch the property that we have and, you know, but this is just.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems like, I guess I trust people that they're gonna be ethical.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, a reminder probably won't do any good, but.
Yeah.
But,
So
like
my
speaking-
question is, what does it mean if they're not? I mean, is this any more teeth if we find that somebody's not being ethical and make that decision? Who's the ethical police? Or, you know, what?
It really isn't. This is just
I
a
just-
stab from the state auditors trying to get people to.
Steve,
be
there's
watched.
actually a state ethics board that if you felt like somebody was unethical, you can.
Well, I know,
submit
but
that to.
we have these things that it just becomes so burdensome, I think. I mean, it's a good thing to have ethics, obviously. And it's a good thing to have a, you know, pledge that I'm going to be ethical, but what does that mean? I mean, Tyson, are you ethical? I hope so.
You know it.
Of course. But so, I mean, so what does that mean? That's the only thing I'm saying. What does it mean? I mean, you know, I'll make a motion that we adopt this ethical pledge form, but for what reason? You know, I don't know. Is it just to have it? That's
Good
5 points off of our thing.
For
We're gonna use it.
good,
We're gonna use it to help.
in good form,
points.
it shows you good form. It shows what your intentions are, whether or not it's bindable or whatever. I think that it's, hey, we are making a pledge to be ethical.
Was that a second, Sarah?
Yes, it's a second.
Did we make a motion?
Yes, you made the motion.
I mean, I said it anyway. Yes, I'll make the motion, but I just don't know why I'm
Yeah,
making
you
the
don't know why I'm making the motion, but you made it. Second by Yuri. Further discussion.
Is there a code of ethics that's approved by the governing body? I mean, would we have a code
can.
of ethics?
We have the state code that has the list of how to be ethic. We also have our personnel policy that has a lot of ethical things in there. May we adopted a policy on using public property, and so there's a lot of ethical laws out there of what we should or should not do.
I think that there is something in our, as far as like what you just said. So yeah, I think that once you sign on to be an employee or a city council member or whatever, that's part of your pledge to be ethical according to the laws and statutes of the state.
So who wrote the pledge? Is that something our office did or?
No, this is actually a template from the state auditor's office.
Okay.
This is the first step. Every year we'll have to sign it, so we can keep adjusting it every year too.
Dave, you want the link? I can send you the link to the state ethics.
So we can't have the 10 Commandments in there though, because that goes against our ethics.
But that's
So
where
if we have
the
any
ethics
reference, if we
came
have
from,
any reference to the 10 Commandments, then we're sunk. But,
All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is discussion and possible action on upcoming city events in light of COVID-19. Last night, I had a Board of Health meeting. I represent all the mayors on that board, and I was frustrated. It was very frustrating for me. I did not get the answers. I've got a lot of tap dancing around the question about community events. They mentioned that they're going down a level, and everybody's probably seen that on the news, and that will allow for restaurants to kind of open with guidelines. About a lot of different companies to be able to open up with certain guidelines, very industry specific to them. So that's great. What about community events? Because every community around here has one. I do know there's a couple that have canceled because there's it's the second week of June. There's West Haven, Uinta. I believe Roy is canceled, but I did not.
South Ogden has canceled.
Who has?
South Ogden.
South Ogden. North Ogden is addressing it tonight. The mayor's going to call me after their meeting, see what they're going to do. I'm trying to coordinate somewhat with them, and I was really hoping, health department, bottom line was, give us a couple more weeks. Okay, that's kind of what we're looking at anyway, so.
Hey, Mayor,
yes.
Tiffany Staley over in North Ogden told me that at the, she does the Parks and Recs, at the very least, that they were going to have fireworks on their cherry days. That was the very least thing that they would do, would be fireworks. So.
So I don't know if we want to, we talked about what, the meeting on the 26th, making a definitive decision. So I guess we got time. Is it the 26th? Is that right?
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, 26th. However, Brian Benyon, the health officer over the health department, did tell me that he personally believes that it's going to be very, very difficult for communities to have these events. He doesn't really think that's going to happen. So while officially they're not willing to put out a hard no yet, he's really struggling with the concept of getting thousands of people together. So
I want to say that I listened in on the Lieutenant Governor's call earlier, and they had about 300 local officials and people on the call. And the Lieutenant Governor's office isn't giving any direction officially either on it. But they did say that we're at level orange now, and that orange still only allows for gatherings up to 20 people. I don't know how that's any better than 10 or 100. If you're sick, you're going to get sick, whether it's a group of 10 or a group of 20 or a group of 100. But anyway, that's out above my pay grade. But it seems to me, and the mayor and I have talked about this, that no one's willing to make a decision and be the one to pull the trigger, because this does have a pretty significant impact. Maybe not so much on Pleasant View financially, but places like Midway that does the Swiss days that are huge. If you've ever been up there. Exactly.
Did you see they canceled Days of 47? Did you guys see that today in the news?
Salt Lake City did.
Yeah, the parade and the rodeo and all of that.
So it's a pretty big deal, and they don't want to be, no one wants to be the one to make the decision and take the responsibility for it. So I can appreciate that. I'm not a politician, but I can appreciate having to make those kinds of decisions and not wanting to. So
I want to be the only group in Utah that does it, that has a celebration. I think that'd be awesome. I think we could make a name for ourselves in this one.
Right?
So. Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. We could make it.
I think at the very least, like I said last time, though, there's some options to at least have fireworks and, a drive-in movie or something with that. Not cancel it altogether, but have something that is safe. So
the only thing that I see, and I'm with Dave and Sarah. I think it's a bunch of overreaction and overreach on everybody's part, but I worry that if we do have it, that we won't have the support, because people will be scared and, are they not going to come out? That's my only fear.
It'd be really hard to plan.
If we, if we typically have 1,500 people to the Salmon Bake and then we only have 200 come, I just, that's my only fear is participation. Not necessarily, the law, that'll come, they'll give the okay or not, but if they clear it, are people going to come? And I don't know. I don't know how to read that until we get closer. So I say, Mayor, that we just leave it as is and decide, just evaluate in 2 weeks and then make the final decision in 4 weeks.
All right. I'm good with that. I know I'm getting a lot of pressure from the other mayors, which is fine. I just will tell them, everybody wants to kind of coordinate, and I get that. It's like the last thing North Ogden mayor said to me, the last thing we want is for Pleasant View to cancel theirs, us to have ours, and everybody from Pleasant View comes over to see our parade, do our thing. He says, we don't, and vice versa. He says, we don't want to cancel ours, have Pleasant View do theirs, or Far West do theirs, and just spread the problem from city to city would even be worse than just.
I would say at least, yeah, I maybe a fair thing to say would be that we're not canceling it altogether. We might downsize it, right? And so that they can at least say, oh, okay, they're going to do the fireworks, we can do ours too. So we can spread the joy.
Well, I'm with Steve. Let's wait and see. We got time. I mean, the council agreed that May 26th would be the drop dead date. We can certainly decide before that, but for nobody, I mean, the cities are starting to drop slowly. So I think in 2 weeks, we'll probably have a much better idea. North Ogden's addressing it today. Whether they make a decision today or not, I don't know, but they're addressing, specifically addressing it. So.
I also think that we can entertain some outside of the box ideas too. Like, I mean, maybe you'll think I'm crazy, but what if we all get in the golf carts and we take the parade to them? Like, even if it's just us throwing candy, it might take us a couple hours to do that. But I mean, we can do stuff that's just like not the same as it's always been, you know?
We heard somebody mention that too. We could drive through the neighborhoods and just have them come out on their house and drop off stuff rather than them join anywhere.
Right. And anyway, I'm just saying we can do it non-traditional too.
Yeah.
I like the alternative ideas, but because from staff level that, you know, we spend all day down there at the salmon bake and the parade, and there are staff members that take it very serious, and to put them in those positions and risk their health to force an event that others recognize as something to be canceled, I think that's an element to take into consideration. That you're going to put us down there, whether there's 200 people or 1,000, if somebody brings it down with them, you're giving it to all your emergency staff, your office. We're all part of those events and touch and talk to every single one of them in one form or another. So any alternative idea and fireworks, you know, the limited part to your staff would be there, but those first two events are very staff heavy interaction with everyone.
But like Ann said, taking the parade to other people, that's an option. The salmon bake, that one is really precarious, but the fireworks can be done without people gathering in a place, and there's ways to do it. Yeah, there's ways to do it.
I want to talk more about, especially the fireworks, you know, if we want to spend a full $20,000 or we want to scale it back a little bit, if everybody's going to be in a car, I mean, that's going to require some more discussion, I think. So keep all those ideas in mind. I think they're good to keep around.
I have a thought though. I wondered if we can put all of our ideas on paper. I think everybody's got ideas and suggestions and things that we could do, but let's write them down and get them all distributed so that, you know, everybody can start talking about them and seeing the options and kind of combine things together. And I think if they're on paper or written down, it would be nice.
So let me know when our next meeting for Founders Day is.
It's a May 28th.
Okay, so after we make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is fine.
You want to change that date?
No, I think
May 19th. I have it down for May 19th. I might be wrong.
My calendar says May 28th. Did I write that down wrong?
That's what mine says.
Okay.
The 28th or yeah, mine's the 28th.
28th. Yeah, we had it after they were going to make the decision. So
I think
the next Founders Day committee meeting is 28th of May.
We can look at each advance and talk about options. You know, we can look at, I mean, this is an option to consider, and that is just canceling it. That might not be agreeable to everybody, but it might be the best thing too. And it's an option we should talk about when we talk about all the other options. Sometimes maybe just foregoing it and coming back stronger next year might be better than trying to piece together something this year. I don't know. It's just like I said, let's keep all options out on the table.
Nothing would be worse than for us to do a half-baked, excuse me, half-baked celebration with, like Tyson said, have just a few people come. We still put the same effort into it, regardless if it's big or not. And those of you that know me know that I'm a freak about doing big parties, and Founder's Day is no different, but I can't think of anything worse than having a single person be exposed because we want to do Founder's Day.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with the mayor that we need to really think hard before we get all excited about doing something halfway. Just a thought.
I want to make sure that in the minutes, it says Kevin said he's a big
Party animal.
party. All right. Yeah, jot your ideas down. Let's maybe start a email chain or something, or get your ideas to, what should we get them to? We probably ought to include Jerry in on this thing eventually, or Steve, you want to just kind of champion it since you're over it? And you can.
I'll get with him.
All right, let's get your ideas to Steve then, and Steve's over the event, and we'll.
You know, I did talk to Jerry, and something, you know, he's really pushing this heritage aspect, and that would be something that we could, because that's really what this is all about. I mean, it's celebration, but it's remembering our past, the tradition for generations, which is the theme of our thing. And so, you know, we could do still something with the heritage, put something in the newsletter. We could still do some fun things like that, just to talk about our past. So, hey, I'll get with him, and we'll definitely, Dave, we'll get something going. And if everybody wants to put some ideas, steve.gibson@msn.com is the best thing to get to me.
What?
I'll put together for next meeting. Steve.gibson@msn.com. And I'll have something prepared for next council meeting.
Another upcoming city event, it's not really an event, but a status, I think Bill put it in his report, is we're planning on opening the pickleball courts on Monday. Allison and Tyson have come up with some signage, and Bill to post some signs. I don't know if Allison got her little device yet. She had ordered a thing where you can reserve your space with your paddle.
I haven't come in yet, but it's on its way.
Okay. And then wait in your car instead of
You
waiting there. So
you might want people there for the first little bit of it, because you're going to have a big, when that opens up, because so many people wanted to have the pickleball courts open, just to kind of regulate it, and so you don't have this massive collection of people. Just some things to consider, because people are super excited to go play pickleball.
There are other
Ogden's courts are open.
Yeah.
Plain City's courts are open. They've been open all year.
So, yeah. Ours normally would open the 1st of April, and we've kept them closed, as well as the playgrounds. We're not quite ready to open the playgrounds up until we get guidelines, which could be any time now. I don't know if they pushed out playground specific guidelines. We have had people going in and taking down the police tape and letting their kids play on the playgrounds, just leaving the tape in a big pile there for us to put back up. Somebody actually broke into the pickleball courts last week, the week before.
Yes, sir.
I believe they improvised a net. Tyson, is that correct?
Yep, they took our landscape rock, it looked like, to prop up their net on our post
Really?
holes. So
Oh my gosh.
we had to go down and shot back them out and looked for any damage. But yeah, they pried the gate open.
You know, part of me, I really struggle, because part of me goes, I get it. I'm going stir crazy myself, and part of me goes, people just play by the rules, and we'll all get through this quicker and safer, and we'll all get through it together if we just all play by the rules. And then we're going to start slowly opening. There is no organized, we canceled organized baseball this time. We only had a handful of kids sign up anyway because of the parents weren't signing them up.
What about flag football? That usually starts in August.
I think she's taking a wait and see on that. We haven't started signups for that, so I am hoping by August we got some parks and things open, and you know the sports arenas are even trying to get back open. So it's going to be interesting. I just hope we don't take a giant step backwards because I don't want to go through this all again. So.
The hard thing about this is that there are so many unknowns. There are variables that are outside of our control, but then there are variables that we don't even know, and we're responding to and trying to react to situation as it unfolds. I mean, there are people who look at the case counts in Utah and they're level, but we're still getting more than 100 a day in Utah, and you know that's still a significant number, right? I mean, so why they decide to change things now, it's an open question. We've got to balance the need for health with the need for a healthy economy. And I don't know where the answer is, and I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions, but yeah, we're just gonna have to monitor things and respond to them as they come.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the good news is that at least my conversations with Allison, if we've been looking at things that we can do regardless of which way it goes to stay safe as everything starts to open, you know, things that we can do in the meantime that are less mitigating, like drive-in movies and things like that. So
yeah, we're trying to look at opening the office back up. We're not quite there yet. We're hoping to get the barriers that were recommended for security also will work great for
disease transmission.
Distancing.
Yeah, disease transmission. So we have a contractor that came and looked at it, and he's going to get us a pricing in that. I believe he did the other side. Is that the same guy that did the other side? I believe the police side. I believe it is.
thought it was,
Might be wrong.
but he did not. He's done other stuff here.
Oh, okay. Done with other stuff here. Good to know. We'll just we'll try to keep you as informed as the information that Bill's pushing out helpful, keeping you kind of up to date there as best. I think you've gone to an every other day or a couple of times a week instead of every day.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Fine, but okay, great. Let's move on to item 7, which is our budget workshop. We got some discussion items Laura's going to discuss with us that she pushed out to each of you. So
yeah, so the front page, I just kind of did some bullet points there. Everything that I made changes from last time, I highlighted it in orange so you could see what changes I made. I did make some to founder stages to see what it would do to the bottom line. And I'll just keep changing those back and forth depending on how you guys decide. I did leave in like the fireworks, but I took out the sound and bake. So that's kind of where the bottom line ended. And the first thing, if it's okay, so the next city council meeting that we have in March or May 12th, we're actually going to have a workshop, and then you guys are going to adopt the tentative budget. And so you may want to think about the changes that we're making and how you want it adopted, because that's when the public will see it, and I will publish it for the public. But you can continue working on it. So just think about those things. And in the budget right now, I did put in that on the property taxes to hold that tax rate constant. So we will have to have a truth in taxation the way it's being presented right now. Another bullet point I had there was, what do we want to accept as far as a limit of 25% or a dollar amount? I don't know if we want to stick really with the percentage, because it does fluctuate with whatever the revenue is. The lower the revenue is, that 25% is not going to be the same as a normal year. If we kept having a normal year, that amount would always be would be close and would be going up all the time. So if you look on page 1, you can kind of see just with those changes that I've made. The last time we had a 16% carryover. For this year, with the changes, we have a 16.48% carryover. And with the changes for next year, it was at 12.28%, and now it's down to 12.4%. But we're only about $14,000 different. And I did reduce the sales tax again. I keep looking at that. So I did down it another $75,000 for next year. And I think I did 13 for this year. Then we'll
It's
go.
a big unknown.
It's a big unknown, yeah. So we'll just keep watching that one. And then another point is in the budget, if we could just leave the discussion for later on the backhoe leases and putting in those equipment. So I left it as is. And so when we do adopt the budget, we'll leave that as a placeholder. And then Tyson can come back later with the studies and good amounts. And this is options that we can do. So I left that as is. And I don't know if you guys want to still continue the discussion on the longevity bonuses. I think I figured out, well, I asked Bill, I got it wrong last time. So I asked him how it really works. And so I made those changes. So that is on page, let's see.
I'm gonna jump in here on that
Okay.
one. I'm just not sure this is a good time to do it with so many people unemployed and so many people struggling right now for us to be talking about longevity bonuses. It's probably the worst year we could talk about it than we've had maybe forever. So I don't know, that's just my opinion. I'll let the council jump in and voice their opinion.
Yeah, would you like to leave that in, or do you want me to take that out for this next budget round?
I agree with you, Mayor. I have a question about it myself. I don't know. I know we want to maintain, especially, the higher end people. I think that's where we were really pushing this for, is to give them something, but
yeah.
I mean, we're giving them a job, for heaven's sakes. I mean, I don't know.
I think the employees will get it. I mean, we're just pushing pause on the thing and we'll come back to it. I think that everybody understands that these are unusual circumstances, and with so many question marks, we don't need another burden on the system. If we're, everyone should just be grateful to have a job, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They have a job and we're not cutting anything. We're not giving any more bonuses out. But Mayor, I agree with you. I think we should take that part out for this budget.
I agree, Steve.
Yeah.
Dave, you had a comment, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we need to look at in the future. To me, I mean, I like the longevity portion of it, but I do think it really ought to be more on performance. And to me, it's not something I think we ought to do at the end of the year, or, the Christmas bonus type thing. It should be more of a, hey, how did we do the budget this year? Did we hit the budget? Are we below the budget? Did they put the effort into helping us as a city? And if they did, let's reward them for it. I think this year is probably a pretty good example. We did really well to the budget, and maybe that's an opportunity for us to reward at the end of the fiscal year based on how we did versus, I don't know, just a thought.
So my 2 cents on it, I agree. I think we should wait on it just with the way things are. I like the idea of a longevity bonus, but only I don't want it to be an expectation. Like right now, we love Laurie. She's doing awesome. We love Bill. He's doing awesome. We love Tyson. He's doing awesome. All of our staff right now, we are so blessed to have great staff. But what if someone comes along that we don't really love? Do we just automatically have to give them a longevity bonus because it's written in? So I like the idea of it, but
fire those people.
No. No, it makes sense because in most public entities, like my husband works for public education, same thing. It's based on, and however you come up with the algorithm to, or the criteria to do a performance or whatever else, but his pay is tied directly to performance. There is cost of living increases, but bonuses or anything beyond a cost of living increase is tied directly to performance. And And just because you've been at somewhere a long time doesn't necessarily mean that you're the greatest employee ever. And if you're going to be rewarded for that, you need to be able to show something. And I don't know who comes up with that, but to exhibit that
Well, I
you
just
are
want to be clear, we
deserving.
do merit-based evaluations every year.
Mhm.
Each of our employees gets a merit-based evaluation, and they get an increase based on the percentage that they are deemed to be performing at. So if you are at 70%, you only get 70% of your merit-based increase for the year. If you're at 100%, you get 100%. So, and that's also driven by the market analysis and the adjustments that we make to everyone's salary on based on those market adjustments. So the problem is, and I thought I'd explain this, but let me just cover it again really quick. The problem is that as people get closer and closer to their upper limit, their merit-based increases diminish. So you're really only, a new guy might be getting $2 an hour increase, but someone that's been here for 20 years and is still at 100%.
That's kind of the standard with most public entities anyway. It's the same way with my husband. He's been with, not that that's justified, but I'm just saying his increases are percentage-wise less than people who first start out with public education, but he also makes considerably more than people who start out with public education. And I would say that would be the case with employees with the city as well. You're making more because you've been there longer.
You're right. I was surprised when I saw this method they use, because most of the public entities that I'm familiar with and either sit on their boards or were hired by or whatever have, generally they use a grade and step. Some use a range, but as they get closer to either the top of the grade or to the top of their range or max out, they switch over to a longevity plan. So that they still get increases. Those are usually, those are usually based on a fixed amount versus a percentage, so that it doesn't keep accumulating. That's their merit raises and their other raises. They get that, and then the next year it's added on top of that, and the next year on top. But longevity is usually you're here and you get this, but then you're here again next year. So it's not an cumulative type thing. So a lot of public entities do have longevity plans already. This was just, I think, Bill's first stab, and maybe we can look at how, because it sounds like we're going to have time to look at whether we need to revamp our merit system to reward people a little more fairly, especially those on the upper end, or if we hybrid this or we adopt something similar to what Bill has proposed. When we're able to do it.
So Mayor, in that scenario that you're painting, was there somewhat of a threshold that they were considered longevity? Like, in other words, was there like a 10-year threshold or something before the longevity?
It's generally when they get to the top of if they're using a grade and step, so you have a grade that is or a range, that let's just say patrol officer 2.
Yeah.
But they never go beyond patrol officer 2. It takes them 10, 12, 15 years, whatever, to get to the top. I've been associated with 10-step grades. I've been associated with 20-step grades, which might take them 17, 18 years to get to the top of. Or it might take them 9 or 10 years, depending on what. Now, we use a range here. We don't use grade and steps. So
I'd definitely like to revisit it. There's some merit to it, and I really would like to let these employees know how much we do appreciate them. So I'd like to revisit it in some time in the future.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on it, and we'll bring it back in either, whatever form we bring it back in. But we'll work on it. Me and Bill and Laurie can. Okay, she does all the figures for it every year. She's got a giant spreadsheet that's she goes through, and so it's quite a formula. All right, so next, sorry,
Okay.
hijacked it. We're on this travel and training.
Yeah, do you guys want to discuss travel and reimbursements to members of city boards? We've never discussed that or never budgeted for any of that, but seems like more of them are going and requesting. How would you like monies budgeted for that or provided to
I-
provide to them.
I think we ought to, if they're gonna go be trained on our behalf, I think we ought to pay their travel personally. Now, there's some caveats there. Sometimes I don't always necessarily agree with the IRS rate of 52.5 cents or whatever it is nowadays per mile. You know, actual receipts from a gas station, I think is, if we are requiring them to travel to be trained for their position, then I'm okay paying the IRS rate. If they're volunteering to go to enhance their position, I think it's okay for us to pay travel, but I'd rather do actual
Dollar for dollar.
mileage. Yeah, keep your receipts and bring them back, we'll pay it.
So at least with correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, very little on planning commission or city council as far as Utah League or whatever else is a requirement.
So nothing is officially a requirement.
Mhm.
So no one gets to go to anything.
So requirement, so I'm just saying, if you're going to put it in those two categories, requirement versus optional, there isn't, at least with city council and planning commission members.
Right. So there are some things that I do and Heather and Laurie and other people do that they have to go to these trainings just to stay certified and to stay up to date and all of these other things. There are things that are, and Anne has been to, I know you've been to planning conferences. You can attest to the fact of how valuable they are to people to go. They're available generally at a discounted rate as far as the conference registration fees. So for example, might be $300 for me and Jill to go, but Anne and Keith and you know, Dave Marriott, if you want to go, they're like $70. They're a much discounted rate because they really want to encourage other people to go, other people that aren't professionals, but that still need the training and the experience and the exposure. And that's all very valuable stuff. So
So we have guidelines for the council and staff. It's the like planning commission or
Yeah, the new other ones we've never offered it
possibly the
really.
Board of Adjustments or
Yeah.
something.
Mayor, can I make a comment, please?
You bet.
No. You know, I think that some of these things are important, and I don't have a list of important ones or non-important ones. I'm not trying to make that distinction, but I think we can put a limit possibly on how often people go. I think in some regards you can have, you know, you could go to a conference every month or something, and I think, you know, could that get carried away? And what are you learning now? You know, Heather, and I don't know exactly, but I know she has to go to some place. Where does she go? I can't remember where she goes. She goes.
it moves around. It's the national
on the
thing.
national
It moves around.
board.
So that's a yearly thing. You know, those are part of her, again, a part of her job description. And, you know, Bill, you have something you have to go to. I understand that, and that's just part of that. But I've been to many conferences over the last 30 years. Most of them are worthless. I mean, it's nice to go, it's nice to get away.
They kind of end up being the same.
But it's the same stuff. I mean, you know, even going to St. George, I went for the first couple of years down there to that, you know, and it was interesting, but oh my gosh, after a while, it's the same stuff, and it just turns into just a big boring thing. It turns into a little escape to go to St. George. Now, is that good or bad for me? I don't want the city paying for that. And so I think we need to just, again, and Mary, you said that we had some guidelines on the staff. I don't know. I just wonder how effective some of these things are, because a lot of this stuff you can get in a memo. You know, my sales meetings and things, put it in a memo. Or give me, you know, some guidance and counsel on that. Don't waste my time forcing me to go to some of these nonsense things that just turn into a waste of time. So go ahead.
No,
Can I bring this back though for a minute, because we're kind of talking two
How to pay for it, I know.
Two different things here. We're talking about travel and reimbursements to add to the budget, which is what we're talking about for city boards.
So just we want to have something to pay, or we want to have a means to pay for it, but we also need to have a means
If
on-
it's justifiable, if that's
if it's
necessary.
justifiable, and then to pay for it. You know, we've
Yes.
talked about your version of the IRS 52 cents. I mean, whenever I've gone to St. George, I've made money because I don't spend that much money on gas. So Mayor, I agree 100% with you. I don't know, $300 or $400 to go to St. George. I can fill my diesel truck, and I feel guilty taking the money. It's just it's horrible.
I think that I'm with Steve though too. Yes, we need to look, if we're going to do it, you need to look for a way to pay for it. But like with Lori and Bill and whatever else, you need to sift through those and find out what is necessary for your recertification as what office you hold. But the other ones, you have to be very careful of, oh, this is a great conference. This would be informational, but is it necessary? Is it really necessary? Because we spend a lot of money on conferences. A lot.
Are we talking about staff's conferences or
Yes,
the
everybody's
planning commission?
conferences. Which ones are necessary for your job? And then the other ones, are they just informational?
All right,
And then how many of them
let's
are
have that discussion at another time. Let's bring it back into the budget and talk about travel and reimbursements for city boards, which is the planning commission.
I like to make
We
a
want
comment.
a budget for something in there.
Yeah, I like to make a comment. I feel like if the planning commission or council members are willing to take time off of work and travel somewhere, whether it's Salt Lake or St. George or whatever, I think we should reimburse them their gas, just like you said, Mayor. So turn in receipts and reimburse them for their gas. That's my opinion.
What did you say, Lori?
Hotel and food.
So is there no budget right now for any of the council?
No, there is for council, just not
Just not planning.
boards like planning commission.
Okay.
And then what did Laurie say? Was she saying, what about food? Is that what she said?
Hotels,
Hotels and food.
also reimbursement on hotels. Question.
Yes, I vote yes. If they're taking time out.
Yeah, if they're going to
Yeah, I
go,
think-
yes.
And so let's frame it like this, or we keep talking about what we're talking about. Maybe we should establish a procedure that can be carried on to other areas to review the training and travel for the planning commission, to authorize, determine is it necessary, will it enhance their job or their ability to do their job that we're asking them to do for the city. And then does it fit in the budget? Have we exhausted the budget, or does it still fit within the budget we've approved? And then authorize it. Maybe that's Bill, maybe it's me, maybe whatever. We can work out the details of that. If we're willing to fund it, then we'll come up with how do we control it. And again,
What's the worst case number, Mayor?
Pardon?
What's the worst case number? If every planning commission member went, I mean, do we need to have a place order for 2,000, 3,000? Laurie, what's the number we're looking at?
Oh, I don't think all of them would ever go, maybe 5 or 6, maybe.
But if they
Probably
did,
St. George,
Well, we
maybe
can
about,
limit it too.
yeah, that's the
That's
worst
a-
case.
we
maybe.
limit it to-
for
so-
gas and hotel, what are we looking at for worst case scenario, all of them?
Probably about $600 each.
And there's how many members? 6 or 7?
9.
And then you have Jill and Bill on top of that.
Well, they're not
That's a whole
included.
different thing.
Oh, okay.
Just for
So
the
let's just,
members.
let's just put a dollar amount of, what should we say, $4,000 in that budget for just a placeholder. And when that
Okay.
money's gone, then we're gone.
That sounds fair.
This is a discussion
like
for
that.
another night, but I would also like to just have, when planning commission members go to something like that, I'd like to have them give us a report back what they learned from the class. So that there's
Yes.
some accountability, that they're going to class,
Yes.
they're listening, they're reporting back, and helping the rest of us who didn't go, learn from their experience. So that's a-
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's value, I've been to, over my IT career, I used to go to a thing called Comdex and they were always down in Las Vegas. I'm not like Kevin, I am not a party animal, I do not like Las Vegas. But I would go every single year to these conferences, and I was once asked, why, and it's like, you know what, I go for 3 days of torture. It's the same repetitive thing until I get to one booth or one class or one event that is something new. And, somebody's giving me a bad time about, hey, you're the IT guy. Well, I've been retired almost 5 years now, and IT is kind of like dog years. 5 years is like, I might as well not have ever been in IT because it's like gone, it's passed by. The technology that they're using and everything is way different. So, but I did one thing. I come back with one thing that I could bring back and save money for the county. And so they're, hopefully, if you're getting nothing, I wouldn't go anymore, but if you're getting something, I would put up with it to get that one thing or two things or whatever I got that year. So, there certainly can be value. You got to look for it. And I agree. I always reported back. This is what I got out of this one. I think it's always good to have a report back. So, all right. So we're going to put a placeholder in for that. Go ahead, Laurie.
Okay, next one is to start talking about recycling and tipping fees and possible fee increases, or what do you guys want to do?
I want to jump in there. I actually prepared a Survey Monkey survey, but I can't figure out how to send it around to everybody without sending it around to everybody. So it is live. It's 4 questions. The questions are: do you live in Pleasant View? How satisfied are you with the recycling service? And would you be willing to pay for a slight increase to help? And it was a specific number. I think it was, help me out, Laurie. What was the number?
70 or 75 cents.
It was something like that. Anyway, would you be willing to pay this much for to offset the tipping fee that we're already pulling from the general fund to keep recycling in Pleasant View? And so I have it already. I just wanted to make sure that I had the thumbs up before I sent that out, either on Facebook or through whatever on our webpage.
I wonder if that's something we could get out on the new Facebook page.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That should be easy, and we could share it and stuff on Facebook. That would be way easy.
Can I bring something up, Bill, that we maybe want to add one more question? So I talked to Debbie Minert today, and I feel like I'm a responsible recycler. And I learned today that I'm doing a bunch of stuff wrong. And I thought I knew, right? So I'm not like some schmuck that's just throwing garbage in there. But like, I didn't know that you couldn't recycle shredded paper. I didn't know that you couldn't do number 5s, because you used to be able to do number 5s. Now you can't.
No pizza boxes, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So I'm just saying, I'm not here. I thought I was being a responsible recycler, and I'm not, And so I kind of would like to know, like, how educated are people? And I don't know if we can turn this into a question, but like, how educated on recycling do you feel you are on a scale of 1 to 10? Or I don't know. What do you guys have? Do you have any suggestions?
That's a good idea, because we're going to want to, if we continue this, we're going to want to educate again and again and again.
Well, just by what you said, Ann, I don't recycle right either.
I know, right?
Well, we could send out the list with
that would be helpful.
The survey, just to make sure if anybody's looking at it, they might take that into consideration.
Yes, that would be helpful.
I gotta say that, like, maybe they send out renewals of what's the new rules are, but once upon a time I got in my head 1, 2, and 5. I don't look at it anymore. They send me the rules this year, and I'm like, I already know what I'm doing, So I don't know if people are even paying attention to the new rules, but I'm not saying we shouldn't send out new rules. We should, but it's an obstacle.
I think it's helpful, because even if they thought they knew, they probably don't.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you're okay with it, I'll send that out and just see what kind of responses we get on that. And then I'll report back.
Will you add that, Bill? Add some question about what is allowed to be recycled, and did you know?
Yeah, we'll leave the budget as is for now as a play, and then when we get that back, we'll readdress that. So hopefully we can get it back before we do tentative or at least final budget. Go ahead, Laurie.
The next one, if you guys will turn to page 21, it is the equipment replacement fund. And if you remember last time in last year's budget, I listed everything that we needed in the next year. I kind of moved things back and forth, trying to figure out which is maybe the most important things and maybe putting those in next year. But then I pushed the other ones off into the following year. So I don't know if you guys want to look through those and kind of see if you agree, or if you'd like to move any of those projects to a different year. The few projects that I left for next year was like the phone system, structural repairs to this building, whether it's the roof or something that needs to be taken care of. I left in all those security assessment findings that fellow did as far as for the court systems. I left that in, and the generator. Then everything else I moved to the following year.
Mayor, I have a suggestion there. You know, I like, when we met last time you talked to, you were putting away $100,000 a year, or yeah, it was 100,000, I think, for the building.
Mhm.
And I think that's a good thing. I'm wondering if, you know, we didn't really have a time frame on when we were going to do a new building, but I'm wondering if we take that money this year and really sink it into the city building and take care of all these things that have kind of been on the back burner, the generator, all the security upgrades, and then if there's any left over, then we put that towards the building. But it doesn't sound like there'll be much left over. But I think let's get this building up to where it needs to be first, and then.
I
put the
actually
money
like that idea in a time when your revenue is reduced. It's nice to be able to put money away, but you need to take care of the things that, you know, instead of strapping the city budget, instead of putting that 100,000 in for next year, use it to upgrade the building this year.
We do
Not that I
have
don't
money
want to
available
upgrade.
to upgrade it.
Say that again, Lori, I'm sorry.
If you look at the bottom ending balance, we do have money in that fund that we had put away for all these large projects. So there is money there. With the still putting $100,000 into a new building, we can always pull that out also if we ever get into an emergency or a buying someplace else. You guys could hold a public hearing and take that money and use it for an emergency also.
Yeah, some of it is what we really think we can accomplish, get done this year versus, it's not as much as can we afford it as what can we really do this year to get done. We figured the security was important. The generator backup, and we're getting a little nervous just because of all the stuff that's been going on. We'll just kind of put it at that. So we want to really kind of look at that a little bit better. And so the money, if you look at the bottom line, it's not that we don't have any money in there. It's just we don't think we can do it all in the time in a year. So that's kind of why it's spaced out. We can always move it over and amend the budget if we get, hey, we could do this also. Let's do it. So nothing will keep us from pulling a project from next year and pulling it back into this year, other than we might have to amend the budget next year.
So if you'll just look at those and see if you agree, or.
And we can approach it with that in mind. Let's try to get as much of these 2 years projects done as fast as we can, and see how it goes from there. Okay.
Okay, the next one is to talk about the pickle courts. I think one of the questions was purchasing land or where we should maybe start planning for a new court, start budgeting for it. So that's just a discussion.
I think that ought to be another survey. Let's ask, figure out what the cost is going to be to build one, and then let's put it out for survey if the city residents are willing to put money into it.
What was the last pickleball courts? What did they run? 300 something?
About 300,000.
Was that
probably 450 now.
How much was donated?
I don't know.
The land.
Yeah, we had the
We have the
land.
land. That's the big difference.
There was some in-kind stuff, but I think yeah, I don't know.
That turned into a little bit of a nightmare for some of the site prep, though. There was a lot of cost associated with that. If we had just a big flat place, I think we could take 100,000 out of that. Because the power, we had to upgrade the power, we had to do all that cement work and stuff.
I wonder too if we couldn't get someone mentioned a fundraiser. I wonder if we couldn't get on the survey, if we asked people if they'd be willing to participate in a fundraiser or be willing to donate even.
Put their name on a brick, on a rock.
Also, that would qualify for a ramp grant, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we-
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
we've got that, even that shady lane where we used to have that parking lot, you know, that between the road and the playground, our new restroom, you know, that's a nice spot for a pickleball court. I know, Ann, you wanted that to be all together, but I think we should spread it around. I think
It definitely falls under the ramp grant category that you can apply for. I think that should be part of the
Making changes to it.
scenario is applying for as much funds as you can through ramp.
So,
We can keep it in as a placeholder and do a lot of research.
yeah, do we want to budget for it? Yeah, and how much?
We got 100,000 in just for what we call land in this current budget we're looking at.
So was the 300,000 just for the courts, or did that include, the land was donated? Is that
Well,
right?
we owned the land. We owned the land.
Oh, pardon me. Okay.
I believe the 300 was just for the court and then the 100
Okay.
for the land. Because we
Gotcha.
don't have a great spot for them currently.
I think we can find a spot.
There's a couple of good
We can
spots
just
that
keep it as a
Barker and Shady.
placeholder for the budget, and it sounds like we need to do a lot more research. We talked about, you know, noise for residents, different, we really need to kind of look around at the city and see, especially if we're going to go out and purchase land. If we're looking at two different options, stuff we already own that maybe we can put on, and stuff that we need to purchase. I think if we're looking at purchasing property, we're gonna want to look at trying to get it away from residents.
You should look at both options for sure, but we definitely have some great spots like Steve mentioned at Shady Lane and for sure at Barker Park for pickleball courts. Some really nice spots.
All right. So we'll keep that as a placeholder in the budget. Laurie, back to you.
The last one is just open discussion. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or discuss? Part of the budget.
I had the sod numbers for the multi-sports and would need, I guess, money one way or another if we want to move forward, or if I'm just gonna get the reseed from Orman. That's something that I guess we need to decide if that's the direction we're gonna take it, and if we
I think
want to
we-
make it a usable park.
Yeah, I think we need some professional guidance here. Is reseeding going to do any good? Are we just throwing away? Should we be?
Waste money again like
or
last
don't wanna
time.
waste any more money if it's.
Yeah,
let's
even
say,
even
hey,
as
it's a
we
failed experiment, let's go sod it and or at least sod the base, maybe not the slope side or something, but.
so even with,
I hate that part.
you know, as we discussed it, they you know, we're on the second, it'll be the second hydro seeding. If it needs a third that covers the hole, you're up to 3 and you're at the cost of sod now. So two reseedings get you to the total cost to just sod the whole field. So my thought is you just go to the 90,000 and sod it and make it a usable field. So that's the total.
90,000?
90, is that what you said? 90?
Yes, and that just gives some wiggle room. That's obviously, you know, the estimate based off of the prices we could find. Once you get exacts, you know, it'll go up or down. So total off what square footage I got it up to, put it at 82, so 90 gives you the wiggle room. But, or you move to half at 48 or 50,000 with some wiggle room. But at least it's can be used as a something and then try to push forward with ramp if that's the direction council wants to go. You know, staff, we bounced around some ideas. You could turn the upper bowl, you know, your rim walkway. Hopefully get in better standings by finishing it up with the sod and having it actively used, and then asking for a project to get the exercise equipment. I don't know if you've seen those. There's not a lot of options with that site where it's all used as a field. So we were kind of thinking if you built out berms, you could do the exercise tracks, like maybe, you know, the ones at the Parkway, Ogden Parkway. I don't know if anybody's familiar with those. They have little obstacle courses. You could try to make it more usable that way. Because even sod, you know, you need a good year maybe to set roots if it's going to take and work out the issues even with that. So hydro seed, you know, you're talking several years before it's even usable. And we've just built a bathroom out there, a highway rest stop, until it is usable for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So me personally, I still lean towards the sod just to make it usable for anything. But
So Tyson, when you're saying half sod, you're talking about down on the playing field, do sod and then hydro seed the rest of it. Is that what you're thinking?
yes, or yes, half, well, just half sod. If
Well,
you did half and half, you're at 50, you're at about 80 to do half and half.
Half sod, half hydro seed.
And 90
Yep.
do full sod.
Yes.
That doesn't make, yeah. If there's a difference of 10,000 for full sod,
I think you could work with the field at full sod at the 75, and then you add another 10 for the hills for hydro seed. I think that's more doable. The hills kind of seem to have come in where they weren't, what little bit was sprayed didn't get washed away when the basin fills up, when it functions as its stormwater detention. So sort of the hills kind of took a little better in my opinion. So maybe if we can work out with them, and this is to spray it at full hydro seed. So if you can, I haven't dealt with a ton of them, but you know, there could be an option where the hills kind of took, maybe you could reduce this number at a lower spray rate. I don't know those yet. This would be, you know, full bore spray in the hills, but that gets you to.
This is something that really would need to be addressed in this year's budget though, right?
Yes, we need to decide, or I'm calling Ormond and just gonna have him reseed and move forward in some fashion. Because we're gonna still have to wrap up that half decel lane, and that'll get you to your functional park or area that people can pull into, have a parking lot, the bathroom. But if you don't do anything with the field, you just built a rest stop on 89.
Yeah.
Do we have enough to put a placeholder in for 90?
Do we have anything in this budget for?
We have the deceleration.
Who did the
Deceleration
original
lane,
feed?
not the resod or sod.
Say it again, Dave.
Who installed the seed, or who planted that? Was that a contractor?
Ormond contracted them out. I don't know the company that did the actual hydro seed personally.
There's some type of a warranty for their service. I mean, don't they guarantee that we just paid a bunch of money and we don't have seed that came through? I mean, I don't understand that.
it's not their fault. It's the geographics of the park.
Yeah, it all got washed away because it's retention basin.
Yeah, so it's runs across from one side to the other in certain flows. Took some then, and then it backed up to function as a basin and took some of it with it. And they are on the hook to do a limited amount of reseed from some original issues. But I was either going to work that into part of the hydroseed cost. So if you did the basin in the field and sod or anything in that, then have them kind of do their hydroseed along the hills to kind of beef that up and get rid of that 7,000-8,000 for the hillside. So that was kind of the thought there, because yes, there is an amount that they are warranting, and they do know they're still supposed to do it. They were going to try in the fall, and then Jay put in, and the turnover, it never came about until it was all frozen too hard. So we were going to do it again this year. So
if we want to get more rain this spring, because it's kind of been a dry spring, we go ahead and hydroseed it. Is that what you're saying?
Water down there really isn't.
Yeah, it definitely dried up. So
yeah, water down there really isn't a problem as far as putting water on the ground. We've got plenty of water to use for irrigation purposes, but the problem last year was that we had too much water just from the sky and from the runoff, and it slid all of the seed down to
Washed
the
it all
bottom.
away.
Yeah.
if not, that is what I would follow through with now, is if we wanted to cut it there, I'll still move on the decel lane, continue or try to push that parking lot through with that one, finish that up, and get Orman to prove up on getting their hydro seed company back out here to finish up that warranty period.
Where does that retention water come from? Is that just the new developments on the highway there? I mean, my question is.
No, that one goes all the way up to the Deer Crest area, and
it's most of the north end of town.
Is there any way we can shut off the water going in there temporarily? We've never had that retention before, so it can't be shut off temporarily.
No, that retention pond has been in for 10 years or more.
Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a year ago, they did a project that directly fed into it that used to go to the canal. So its capacity and usage increased heavily with that one. And that is also where the Little Mo's new spring diversion runs through that, which it's currently in it now.
Okay.
I guess the real discussion is, do we want to spend the money to do the sod, or do we want to keep chancing the hydro seed? That's kind of what it comes down to.
And if you don't, I will never ask again, and I will move forward and we'll do the best we can.
It just seems like a huge expense to be able to put sod in there. And I get that it might take 3 times to do it, and that's frustrating too. But to me, I don't think that place is really ever going to be used except for maybe athletic events that are scheduled there. I don't think anybody's going to walk around the track there because they can't walk to it. They're going to have to, in Pleasant View City, they're going to have to drive to it. And I don't think anybody's going to go do that. People I know around me, I don't think are going to do that. So I don't think I'd sink a lot of cost into additional improvements other than the grass, but.
Nope, and I absolutely can just move forward with the warranty, and we'll continue that way if that's the direction.
He wants to say something. I can tell.
Well, I mean, this is a big lemon for everybody, and I wish if we could go back 2 or 3 years, we could just not do it. But when you seed something, you get a really good base and get growing, but you have to maintain it. And that means watering it. You have to, keep the lawn wet for 2 or 3 weeks until it comes. And so, I mean, I think that's part of our problem too. We had so much water last year, washed it away, but then I don't think we took care of it from the watering standpoint either. So if we hydro seed it, and I mean, I just can't imagine it's going to cost $40,000 to hydro seed that thing.
How much did it cost before? Again, Tyson, what was the amount
Well,
before?
And those are just estimates based off some costs we could get in town, and
How much
so-
was it last time?
I'd have to look it up.
Do you
And
remember?
I'll take this, and I mean, I'll call somebody and see how much I can get to have it behind or hydro seed. You know, we get that green goo that has a little bit of base to keep it moist. And I think if they just spray that, they spray all the base and spray, all the edges around. And if we get some of the local wood companies to have some of their wood chips around the top, and then if you can lay out that parking lot like we talked about last year.
Yep.
And then we're done with that for a little bit.
Mayor, it sounds to me like Steve's volunteering to be the park czar from now on.
Well, no, I don't want to be a park czar, but I mean, it's common sense that we can get this done. It still bothers me that we, $40,000-$50,000 for hydro seeding. That bothers me.
Yeah.
It seems like too much. I mean,
I just want to know, I know that you guys wanted it to be a functional park at some point or whatever, but are we really in that big of a hurry? Do we have to do something now to do something?
Well, we don't want to, I mean, it is going to take, if you hydro seed, it is not going to be ready to play till next year.
I don't think people are beating down our door to play it.
It's not going to be 2 or 3 years, but you cannot plant it for a year. You'll be mowing it in a month, and then you have to just mow it every week, and heavy fertilizer. Fertilizer is going to be the biggest cost down there.
Sounds like we want to get some more quotes maybe for hydro seed and quickly, because I think we're at a point. I mean, if they could have hydro seeded it this week, that would have been perfect.
It's going to be hot,
warm and dry. It's not going to get any rainstorms that's going to wash it all out. We could water it because the water's on, and so.
Well, Bill, I will volunteer to get some prices. Well, what is the square footage, Tyson? What are we looking square footage wise?
It's 173,000 for the field and 37,800 for the hills.
Okay.
And I can text it all to you. Again, it's
137,000 square feet for the field, and how much for the hills?
37,800 square feet. And again, I know these are high because you need to be high on the higher end, and then you go and shop and get it lower. But you always take the higher to bring to these. But
no, that's fine. I'll get a couple bids and we'll see how it is. I mean, if it really comes out at 50,000, then it makes sense to if you can sod it for 90, and we can have it done this year and have it all be done. I mean that's the numbers. Okay. But we don't have any money for it anyway, right? For any of it, unless we do the warranty issue, and are they gonna do the whole thing again?
I still have to dig into where that ended, just because I wasn't directly part of it. So I've been working off past discussions, and my understanding was that they were on the hook to go through all of it. So
yeah, that's what I remember too, is that they were on the hook for the lion's share of it. There might be some areas where they won't have to do because that's where the grass all kind of migrated down to, but it's
so then we're on nothing. So you should just have them do it then if they're on the hook for everything.
Well, that's what I was asking, is if
it doesn't
don't
work,
want to move forward with the sod, I'll go and just work with the warranty period. That's what I was asking.
If they're on the hook and you can get them, or if you get 40,000 out of them, then we'll put that money towards sod. Ask them that, I guess.
Is there grading that needs to be done still, or is it just
So they graded it out. We might add some towards the lower end that it took with the seed, but most of that, we should have what they would need to do that part.
Yeah.
Are all the sprinklers visible? I know when we went last fall, some of them had sunk. Are the sprinklers, if we turn the sprinklers on tomorrow, are they all going to be working?
No, I would imagine not. A lot of them, because there's no vegetation when they were on towards the end of the year, it sort of worked holes around them. But even the parks with grass have to be repaired every year.
Yeah,
So
just your normal maintenance.
No, but if I turn all the sprinklers on, are they all going to come on? The heads all working? Are they?
Yeah, the system should work. You would just need to do your normal spring sprinkler maintenance like you do on your yard.
Yeah.
Well,
Just like any of the parks, they kick on and then we shut them off, just like Pine View as they go change some heads, and there's the occasional belly that splits a pipe. And I mean, I'm not going to guarantee that the whole place is perfect and there's not one issue, but yes, the system overall, I would imagine, will still function. Yes.
Well, we need, if I'm going to be that czar, we've got to get that working. If we go hydro seed, we've got to have that water be able to come on for 10 minutes every hour and water that and keep it wet. So
absolutely. No.
Bill, I mean, I can't tell Tyson what to do, but Bill or Mayor, would you tell Tyson to go and have that, just turn on the system tomorrow or sometime soon?
Yeah, they're working through the system. That's one of the parks that they're working through to make sure they're up to speed. They were out here at Barker Park earlier yesterday and today, and so it's just on their system to get through. So it's on the list.
Yeah, where they just fired up, they're just barely getting our bigger parks in town up and running and fixes, and so yes, that is on the list.
Do we blow the lines out every fall? Okay.
Yep, that's the other function of that crack seal compressor, is it hooks up and they blow through with all the cycles.
So what's the bottom line? We need to hold some money, and they also are going to come warranty is that the bottom line? Is that where we're at?
Well, or I'll just,
I believe we have 15,000 in the budget.
So you're gonna go to the company first and see what you can get, and then look at using other funds.
Yep, that's what it sounds like to me. So
sounds like a plan.
Happy to do it.
Maybe to put it in perspective a little bit, we could hire a fully burdened employee to be full-time down there for 6 months in the summertime for 15,000 to seed it and put peat moss down and to take care of it full-time. So I mean, that thought.
That's a good point. That's what it needs, is some tender, loving care.
Yeah.
Well,
Steve already volunteered.
No,
Didn't have any love from the beginning.
I got a good looking lawn. I know how to grow a lawn.
Steve likes a roadside rest stop anyway.
Well,
I don't have issue with doing it any way you guys want. I just thought I'd follow up on an issue that, to my understanding, was sort of up in the air and sort of still questioned. And so it sounds like you've picked one, and I'm happy to head that direction. But just getting them to come back, we'll seed it, and we'll turn Bob and Tyler loose on it and tell them to make it as beautiful as the rest have started to look. So I don't think it's a matter of our willingness or abilities and knowing our job functions and how they need to be done to get there. It's just what your direction from an outstanding issue is. So
You guys do a good job.
Yeah, I
Thank
think,
you.
yeah, that's good.
okay. That brings us to this. We're gonna come back to. We're gonna add closed meeting to the end of the agenda. Not add it, but move it to the end of the agenda so that we can finish up the public information, because that's obviously a closed meeting. We'll have to turn off the YouTube. So, quick reports. Chief.
Well, Police department staying busy. Unfortunately, our domestic violence and family fights, that type of call are way up. But I think that's something that's pretty much a trend throughout the state. Sometimes along with these family fights, we're seeing more threatened and attempted suicides that go along with that. So the officers are staying busy with that and doing a good job, but I think we're kind of anxious for things to get back to normal. I think people are getting sick and tired of being together as families. Had a little girl the other day, usually they run away from school to go home. This little girl ran away from home to go to the school. So we found a 10-year-old girl at the school who had run away from home. That kind of shows you what this COVID trend is doing. It's got everybody mixed up. I think I've talked to you before about the damage at the UTA station in Pleasant View a few weeks ago. There were probably $8,000 to $10,000 worth of damage done. Pleasant View police arrested 2 individuals involved with that, and the UTA police arrested another 2 individuals involved in that. So we got 1 adult, 3 juveniles involved in a lot of damage at the train station on 2700 North. But they've all been apprehended, and we'll let it work its way through the court system and see how restitution's made. The property is owned by UTA, however, it is in Pleasant View City. So we've been working with the UTA police on that one. Our grants that we wrote last fall for just short of $12,000, all the money's come in on those. All the equipment's been purchased on those. Guns, cameras, vests, and the Advanced Armor, who we got our vests from, actually donated a bulletproof vest for our canine dog. And so that's kind of a neat thing that we're supporting.
That was really cool.
That dog when needed. She's got a regular vest that just says police that she can wear all the time. And if we have time and the situation comes to that, we do have a bulletproof armor we can put on her real quick. She's very aggressive, very good dog. We're very pleased with the program. Officer Brady Benson took it over from Officer Trent Wilson, who resigned last fall. He's completed all his training. We got the dog in service and it's doing really well. You've probably seen the dark blue Explorer. It's the only one we've got that says K9 on it. And we'll try to do some kind of demo for the city council this spring or summer. When things settle down a little bit, we'll get the dog and some of the officers here and do a K9 demonstration.
So you have one of those suits that fits Sarah?
We do. We bought a suit just for Sarah. So. We have a dog bite suit. I don't know actually even where it came from. I just think that we got it. Officer Courtwright is one of our newer officers we hired last winter. And we'll introduce him when we can. He's got some canine training through Clearfield Police Department. And he's been suiting up in that suit at night and letting the dog attack him. He's got more guts than I do. The dog's been very good. Everybody's doing good. Equipment's good. Guys are happy, and we appreciate the council and backing and support they've given us.
Sarah gave a thumbs up to that. I think that would be a good food truck activity. I think we could pack people in.
Bring it on. I'll dress up.
We'll even embroider Sarah's name on it if she'll do it. Thank you.
Tyson?
I'll donate to the Band-Aid fund, Sarah, for the bites.
All right.
The new sweeper got here last week on Tuesday. We've run through the manuals and training with the Intermountain sales, and we got to do our first emergency street sweeping that Friday at 3 o'clock to 6. As another gravel truck spilled across the top. I think that's like the 4th one in 2020 that the truck can't be tracked down. It's not linked directly to the butters. And so we end up running up and had a quick training session, and it worked great and couldn't be happier. And I think it'll do a lot of good for the city. Added the hydrant at the end of Alberta, that's been a long-standing water quality issue. The water guys have to pull a meter and flush it every Friday, and we finally got a hydrant added to the end of the line, and should be the cleanest water they've ever had. So we're all going back to the normal work times starting next Monday. So we'll hopefully get going on more stuff. So
Okay.
that's about it. Other than that, just firing up the parks and business as usual.
Bill?
I'll let Sarah talk about the Facebook page. I did mention the recycling survey. We did have a meeting, an online meeting yesterday. I don't know if you heard about it. It actually made the news. I was watching the Zoom meeting, kind of like we're doing here, and all of a sudden it wasn't the Zoom meeting anymore. I won't go into that anymore, but it was awful. It was awful. And just, yeah. So we've taken steps, just so you know, we've taken steps. That's why we're broadcasting on YouTube and not allowing people to participate in our Zoom meeting here because of security reasons. And so, but one of the things that they cleared all that up, implemented the security, and came back with talking about economic issues. And there's just a lot of question marks out there. It's one of the things I'm grateful for, that Lori is on top of these things and making sure that our projections are coming in where they are, because we're seeing across the state there's a lot of volatility and a lot of question marks. And so the thing that we could use help with, and the council can be involved with this, is that there are resources available for people who may be in need. So if you get approached, or if you hear of people that are in need, both either of their business or with their housing or anything like that, please let them know that there are resources available through the state and through the federal government, and point them in that direction to get that help that they need. So other than that, that was an interesting conversation. Then we had a phone call with the Lieutenant Governor earlier today. I kind of sent you some notes about that. We're on level orange. We're looking to, the main thing about that is that we're looking to regional responses on that, and that, as discussed, festivals are still outstanding. We're still looking at social distancing though for the foreseeable future, which means stay away from other people. And so how that plays into our event is, like I said, to be determined, but we'll see how that goes.
Hey, Bill, do you guys have masks available to you for use, or?
So the PD has been using masks and other PPE as they've been interacting with the public. We've curtailed our interactions with the public and have asked them largely to stay away from us. With each other, we feel pretty confident that we both stay away from each other in the office here, and then we have folks on a rotating schedule, so the exposure is limited that way. And we feel pretty confident that those steps will help us mitigate any impact. And we're also looking to not reopen fully until we get those barriers installed in the front office at the counter there. So again, the idea is not to necessarily cut the public off, but to limit exposure to people who may be sick, and vice versa, because there may be sickness in the office that we're unaware of that we don't want to spread out to the community as well. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Laurie?
No, nothing. Just sign your forms.
Yeah, so those forms, ethics forms we approved, we'll need to sign them and get them into Laurie. It's not just for employees, it's for council members, elected officials.
Do you just want us to drop them off and put them in our council slot at the back door?
Or email them to me somehow.
Scan them and email them, or
Yeah.
something like that?
Either.
Okay.
I think notary is going to be kind of a hard thing this year, but I think I don't think that's a big issue this year to have notarized, but at least sign them and email them to you.
Okay, anything else? Thinking, anything else?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, that's good, that's good. Sarah?
Sorry, I'm muted. Like Bill said, so we worked on making a Facebook page. This all started with Anne bringing up the benefits of Facebook again, and I'm grateful that she put that in everybody's ear, and it, kind of took off with her initiating it. So that's awesome. And so creating that Facebook page last week, and we shared it started sharing it on Monday, and it has, so that's yesterday, and has almost 100 likes, and people are really appreciative of it and really like it. And so with that, if you're going to share something on the Facebook page, just run, not for permission's sake, but for courtesy's sake, and make sure that it's not going to be something that he's already going to share or something like that. But if you feel like you have something that you want to share on the Facebook page that is pertinent to Weaver County or the city or something like that, informational, not conversational, just shoot Bill a text or an email and just say, hey, either you share this or this is what I'm going to share, just to let him know, so that he wasn't already going to do it. So Bill largely will be sharing things from the city and what has to, happenings and stuff. And Allison will be sharing things with events. And right now she and I have been talking with Bill and coordinating, starting on Monday, a chalk art contest. And so she'll be putting that out for the next week or so, and the parameters of how to participate in that, so you can earn some gift cards or win some gift cards. And then we thought of some other things after that too. So I think it will be a great tool. People seem to have a good response about it and are excited. So we'll see how it goes from here. But it's not for conversation, it's just informational, but it's absolutely, we're kind of way late to the game, but social media, it's an important thing when used wisely. So we're excited. And thanks again to Dave and Ann for putting on the agenda the discussion about the gravel pit trucks and Skyline Drive and stuff, and keeping that fresh in our minds. I think that's important too. So.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, hopefully it won't freeze up while I'm talking here, but I keep my Wi-Fi is terrible right now. I just wanted we had a meeting I guess last week with Jerry and Glenn Phillips, and Bill and the mayor was there to talk about the history that we want to add to the website. And I think they've got a really good plan to do that, to add it. And I think we all agreed that it's the right thing to do to add it in. They want to follow similar to what has been done in Plain City. So if you want to look at Plain City's website and see their history page, it's going to be similar to that. They did agree to create all of it and then let us look at it before we make it live. So hopefully we'll all have access to do that, and we can look at the history. So it sounds like it's going to be good information and it'll be helpful. We just need to make sure we like what is being put up. So anyway, that's all I have.
Okay. Steve?
Mosquito abatement district started last week, and they showed me some videos the other day of out west, and they're huge and horrible. I just can't believe it. So it's going to be a bad mosquito year according to the West. But anyway, they're starting and they're all out spraying, and it's in full swing. So that's all I've got.
You sure they weren't locusts?
Mormon crickets.
It was horrible. I mean, they drove a truck out there west, almost to Little Mountain, and the bugs were just they had to do the windshield wipers to get the bugs and the mosquitoes. I mean, they weren't all mosquitoes, but just horrible.
You can still call and request a spray in your area, can't you?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. And
I just want to thank everyone for being patient with, I'll speak for you, Dave. Dave and I, just bringing us up to speed. I know you guys have been through these rounds before, but we haven't. So thank you so much for that. And also just like, Sarah, you don't have to give me any credit for Facebook. I pitch you the ball and you hit a home run. So
Whatever. You're awesome. We're all a good team.
yeah, but I do appreciate that too. There has been a lot of good feedback. So we do on the Facebook page direct them to the website. So I think we need to probably put some time and effort into the website because it looks a little archaic. Put our current events somewhere where we can find them really good and stuff like that. So, but yeah, good job. And so I don't really have anything else outside that.
yeah, I think our current webpage lists our population at about 9,000, and we're probably getting close to 11,000. That's a little old. We'll know a lot better. Which brings me to just one thing before I turn it over to Kevin. I wondered if we could put something out on the webpage / Facebook page about completing the census and the importance it is to do your census.
There was a lady who actually submitted an entry for Pleasant View residents Facebook page that she wanted to share. She's a census worker, something like that, of directing them towards the website and stuff. So that definitely could be done.
Have you all done your census?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Quick idea, but Bill, maybe you want to put the Facebook page on the Survey Monkey just as a like FYI for more information. Join our Facebook.
That's a great suggestion.
And the recycling rules.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip Kevin. I just wanted to get that since we were kind of talking about that. So, Kevin.
I don't have anything.
He was going to talk about census, but I can't.
Gonna talk about my next party.
Yeah.
Ooh, party at Kevin's house. Kevin's the party man.
That brings us to a closed meeting. We do need a closed meeting tonight, so I'd entertain a motion to go into a closed meeting to talk about pending litigation or whatever it's called.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Sarah was second.
Roll call.
Call vote. Oh, good. Dave,
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yes.
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay. We're in a closed meeting. Give us a second to.
So if we just have earphones on and stuff like that, we're good, right? Here in our house.
Yeah, we just got to shut off the YouTube feed and
Okay.
record it on our recorder here a little different. So give us just a minute. We're new to this.
Closed meeting.